All right, well, sad news for us South Africans. Garen, why don't you take us through the second game?
The second game was the All-Australian match between the Waratahs and the Brumbies. I actually thought this game would be a lot closer than it turned out to be. It was fairly close in the first half. The Waratahs got a really early try, and they sort of were never behind after that, and I think the home ground advantage played a factor in the end. So, they ran out comfortable winners in the end as well. A little bit disappointed by the Brumbies, who had made the final last year, but won't be there this year. So we've got the Waratahs up against the Crusaders in the final in Sydney next weekend. That should be a fantastic game, really. I think that fair to say that the top two teams in this year's tournament reached the final, which is always good. So, the Waratahs, they've really been building this season. We've talked about some of the fantastic tries that they've scored. Israel Folau doing fantastic things at fullback. He's really been a revelation since his switch over from rugby league. So he's certainly one to watch in the final. I can't wait for the final. It's going to be a fantastic game. You've got the Waratahs looking for their first title up against the Crusaders looking for their 8th title. They're by some distance the most successful team in Super Rugby history. So, something's got to give there. Will the home ground advantage play into the hands of the Waratahs? Are the Crusaders good enough to overcome that travel factor? So, that's all those answers will be answered on Saturday.
Robert, what's your take on the Waratahs versus the Brumbies game?
Yeah, I think the game, as Garen said, it lived up to expectations. A really fiery Australian derby. It was a semi-final, which you expect to be sort of fairly tight, attritional sort of stuff. But there were some very good moves in the game, and the Waratahs confirmed that they've got quite a nice marriage, I think, between their sort of forward physicality and their ability to be more fluid, in interplay between the backs and the forwards. They create opportunities. They do get across the advantage line, there is one reason for a little bit of optimism for the final. There's a South African presence there. Let's not forget. Jacques Potgieter, the former Bulls utility forward, is now a real cult figure in Sydney for the Waratahs, he was at his best again. Lots of real ton of bricks tackles from him. He loves to carry the ball. He puts himself about. He's a far more complete player. Perhaps that's educative now in a South African context. Perhaps puts a few of our coaches in perspective. When you see a guy like that who'd been pretty much written off as a Springbok a couple of years ago, and looked at as a fairly one-dimensional player, suddenly looking so much more vibrant in Sydney. And as I say, he's become one of the real crowd favourites down there. So I think a few South Africans might get behind the Waratahs because there's a solitary South African among the 30 who start the game next Saturday.